This is how they get paid back. So,
I would like to call to order the meeting of the Winthrop School Committee on Monday, August 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. This meeting is being held in the Neil Shapiro Center for Performing Arts at the Winthrop High School, 400 Main Street, and it is being televised live. Can I have the roll call, please? Yes, Ms. Leonard?
Present.
Mr. Lettieri?
yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yep.
Ms. Petrie? Ms. Swope?
Present.
Ms. Barry? Here. Ms. Powell? Present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Swope, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no one for public comment, and we have no delegates and visitors. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 8th, 2022?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Martucci, second by Ms. Leonard. Any discussion? Can I have a roll call, please? Yes, Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Abstain.
Ms. Barry?
Abstain.
Ms. Powell? Yes. May I have a motion for warrant SVW 23-22 in the amount of $432,425.90?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Ms. Berry, second by Ms. Leonard. Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a roll call, please? Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. We have no payroll warrants or budget transfers tonight. We do have a Buildings and Grounds request from the Joni Star Dancers, dance recital, and the William P. Gorman Fort Banks PTO meeting to approve. Can I have a motion for both of those?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lettieri, second by Mr. Martucci. Do we have any discussion on those requests?
And what are the dates of them?
I can tell you the Joni Star Dancers is from 11 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, June 10th, so they're way ahead of the game.
Oh.
And the PTO event, I know it's in September, Gorman Fort.
It's the whole school
Oh, it's the
year.
whole school year. So September 15th, October 13th, so they go once a month, right through June, and it's for 1 hour from 6:30 to 7:30, and they typically have about 20 people. They do it in the cafeteria. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Can I have a motion, please?
Motion. Second.
We have a
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
can I have a roll call, please? Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. We have no subcommittee reports tonight, but we do have a superintendent's meeting.
We do,
report
and
tonight.
thank you. Please bear with my post-COVID voice. It kind of comes and goes, and occasionally I break out into a nice coughing fit and have to get up, so hopefully that won't happen tonight. So just a few things. Obviously, we've been very busy the last few weeks, been very busy all summer. But as we approach the opening of the 2022-2023 school year, meetings have been immense in terms of the number of meetings that we've been having with staff and administration, as well as our ongoing negotiations. So just an update on staffing. We have 24 new teachers, or a combination of teachers, speech language therapists, school adjustment counselors coming in. We have 10 new ESPs coming in. Our new teacher orientation is being held on the 25th here at the high school from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Members of the committee are welcome to attend. It will be in the library upstairs here at the high school around 8 or 8:30. If you want to come in and just say hello to the new staff, you are more than welcome. We have a large agenda with the new staff. That agenda starts with introducing them to their mentors, talking to them about many things, but real specific stuff comes to, what it's like to be a teacher here at the Winthrop Public Schools. We get them oriented with their Chromebook and all their logins and passwords and their teacher identification. We provide them with lunch. They speak with Jen O'Connell, who's our pupil personnel director. She spends some time talking to them about special education here in Winthrop. Kristen Reynolds talks to them from the teachers union perspective and gives them about a half hour of informational discussion. We do technology introduction, where we show them what TeachPoint is, how to get into iPass, how to utilize Smart EDU. Lunch is being provided this year by Joe Ferrara from, he does 403Bs for teachers, gives them the opportunity to engage in that if they'd like to. We go over the handbook. We do a self-assessment with them. They do building tours, so they get back over to their school building, meet with the principals, see their classroom, and the like. So that's pretty exciting. We're going to be doing the same this year with the new ESPs that are coming in. So that's exciting. We haven't taken that opportunity in the past. We've just done the new teachers. So being able to have the new ESPs kind of learn the ropes and understand what being an ESP in the Winthrop Public Schools is like. They also will be getting their access to their accounts, their iPass account, and their badges for their teacher badges and ESP badges. Negotiation update. Over the summer, we've had several positive negotiation sessions. As you are aware, we are negotiating with all 7 unions this year. Since June 29th, so since school has officially closed and throughout the summer, we've had 2 sessions with our teachers, 1 session with our ESPs, 2 sessions with secretaries, 2 with our custodians, and 1 with the school nurses. And we are scheduled for the 3rd session with the teachers on the 25th, which is this week on Thursday, and the 2nd session with ESPs on the 31st. Our teachers are officially starting on the 29th. They will be beginning their time in their assigned building with the principals, going through a multitude of building-based management activities and introductions to each other. The ESPs and the nurses are our next group that comes in. They come in on the 30th. Both days, people are expected to be here from 8 to 3, which is a little bit different than their normal sort of staggered schedules. And our students start on the 31st, so we're excited to get that up and running. So we have a new SEL benchmark that we'll be presenting some more information to you at the next school committee meeting. That's a social, emotional learning benchmarking system that we're going to be using with all of our students, where we speak to our students and ask them to do a survey about how things are going with them overall in general. And we're going to be doing that 3 times a year, which is dramatically different than what we do now. And that gives us the opportunity to take a peek at students over the school year, but also track them beyond the first school year and into the next school year, and so on throughout their school time. We'll be introducing that to you so you can see what it consists of. The teachers are excited to use it. It'll be done in the classroom by classroom teachers, and parents will be getting information on it before we begin that process, but we'll be introducing it to the school committee as well. Something else that's important, breakfast and lunch for all students is free again this year. That's a huge boost for the school district, but most importantly for our children and families. So we will be having breakfast and lunch daily in each building for our students. Parents will be receiving information about that. Parents get the free and reduced lunch forms, and they may think that they don't have to fill those out because breakfast and lunch is free for everybody. It's really important that people do fill it out, because those free and reduced lunch forms result in people who qualify for free and reduced lunch having other benefits throughout the school year that we bring to parents. It could have to do with technology, may have to do with sliding scale on user fees and things of that nature. So we will be encouraging parents in our opening letters to parents to make sure that they fill that documentation out and get it back to us. But all students, pre-K through 12, will be free breakfast and lunch. ARCS Ed is a new platform that we have decided to use this year. We've done quite a bit of research on it. It is a platform that allows us to have one house for professional development for all of our staff. similar to Smart EDU, which is the tracking system of it, but ArcsEd gives us the opportunity to push out to all of our staff our mandatory training. So the first 2 days of school, we spend a lot of time having staff sit and go through the mandatory trainings, whether it's restraint training, whether it's training on bullying and harassment, whether it's training on ethics and conduct. And so we've taken all of that information and it's actually a pilot program. So we got in early on it, which is helpful because we're sort of the guinea pig for this particular program. But what they do is they take all of your trainings and they put them into one portal, which allows us to send it out to either groups of people or the entire staff, and it collects the data. So our ALICE training will be on there, and many, many trainings, and I can share with you the list of those trainings at the next meeting. The nice thing about it is we have it up and running now, so we can send it to staff prior to the first day of school. Those trainings that are mandatory and a working condition of being an employee in the Winthrop Public Schools, typically we're chasing people if they forget to do it, and once we have the time to go through the list and see who has done it and who hasn't done it, this portal will allow that to automatically let people know and then let us know if somebody hasn't completed their training. The other nice thing is they took a lot of the trainings that are typically extremely boring and PowerPoint driven, and they have converted them into actual people doing the training, so it's more interactive and more engaging for people. And the other, what I think is probably the best piece of it is, it's there for you to go back and look at whenever you want. So if we needed to redirect somebody back who didn't seem maybe read the policy but is not sure about how to enforce the policy or the mandate, they can then be redirected and go back and watch that in real time. And we can assign it to people if we feel as though something has taken place and a person really needs to revisit this, and as a condition of a principal, they can reassign that to somebody. So we're excited about that, and to see the data that comes out of that in much faster, so that we're able to make sure that we are compliant with all of the trainings. And when it comes time for review, compliance reviews, whether it's from the Department of Education or whether it's from the Ethics Commission, we can now easily hit a button and have a printed rundown of all of our staff by grade. We can do it by name, we can do it by school, who has completed that training. So that's exciting for the compliance goofballs like myself that want to make sure that we have that underway. Technology updates, as you all know from the bills from Comcast and from Balsam, we've been doing a lot of work with, we had Balsam do a projection of some of the top 10 things in the world of technology, since we have gained all this technology over the past couple of years. What are sort of the top 5 or 6 things that we need to do as a school system to ensure that we're getting the best use of the materials that we have and the different pieces of technology we have. They are now working on designing a replacement plan, so sort of a control for us to help us with budgeting moving forward. And most importantly, with our internet connection. We've had some disruption with our internet connections in the past. We've had some DDoS attacks, which we certainly have mitigated that through Comcast providing us with a service to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But one of the things we found was the routing of the internet that comes to our school system, running through the Arthur T. Cummings and then back out to the Gorman Fort Banks and the middle school and high school. It's lots of language, lots of technology language that I would have to read it directly out loud to you, and then I actually do understand it. But the long and short of it is we had to untangle a lot of wires, and we had to put dedicated internet to each building. And in order to do that, and not have it run through the Cummings School and then back out, but to run directly from where it comes out of Comcast and into the schools, we had to do a lot of changing over of switches and wiring, and a whole bunch of stuff. And in the long run, we will need less bandwidth in each building than we're currently using, which was sort of eye-opening to me. So the schools will be running on their own bandwidth. It'll be more compatible for us. There'll be less interruption. And the dedicated service will allow us, when a switch or a warranty is running out on something, to be able to catch it at the port it needs to be. They are in the process of mapping all of the data rooms. So right now, all the data is housed at the Cummings School. Once it's broken out into each building, and we're almost there, that information will be easy to access from Balsam if there is any type of an outage or a switch that is down. And it's critical because of the number of programs that we are running in the school district that are internet-based. So if something were to go down, as we had seen in the past, it can literally stop us from being able to provide our students with the direct education that we want them to have. You know, a lot of the platforms that students use in the classroom, whether it's Lexia or whether it's a piece of curriculum that is internet-based, if that were to go down, we're sort of stuck. So this will definitely enhance that entire process and make it easier to pinpoint things and fix them. We didn't have a clear map of what every switch in the control room at the Cummings School did, and therefore when something would go down, it was sort of a hunt and peck and guess, and really extended the amount of time it took us to be able to fix that. There are longer-term projects that Balsam and Comcast believe we would need to do over the next 5 years, and they're going to be providing us with that report, hopefully, by the beginning of October, and that will allow us to, as we do our budgeting, to sort of have that capital plan for technology across the district, including replacement of things such as Chromebooks, teacher laptops, smart boards, and the like. So that's pretty exciting. Another exciting opportunity that is out there, and I provided it to each one of you in your spot, comes out of the Mass Association of School Committees. I was at the Superintendent's Conference this summer and had the opportunity to hear about this, but then to speak to a handful of superintendents who took advantage of it last year and the year before. And what the opportunity is the Mass Association of School Committees comes out and takes a look at your school's policy book. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but it's about this thick, and it has multiple versions of the same policy as it's been updated, but it's not online, it's not easily accessible, it's certainly far from digital. Every time we change a policy, we have to sort of handwrite it and put it into the computer and print it out and then put it in the book. And then typically we don't look at those policies until we do a training or until there's an issue or until someone asks or requests the policy. And then we have to flip through this 500-page book and find it. So what MASC does is they offer the opportunity to send out a group of people to work with your policy subcommittee. The association sends its own team, and that team starts off by going through everything we have. And they line that up with everything that we're supposed to have, and they make recommendations to us about what to add or subtract for that book, and then they digitize that book for us. And they take that and they put that book online with the Mass Association of School Committees, and we also have a link to that we can put on our school department website so that all of our families and staff and anyone in the community could access that policy book at any time. I think critical in doing something like this is transparency, and access for parents is big. I think most importantly is compliance. And I talked a little bit about being a compliance geek, as most people know, but that's my former role. But there are a lot of policies out there that are strongly recommended that we never really get to until we have to, and then it's typically too late. So from a litigation standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of keeping ourselves and our staff and our children safe. So I would like to bring this up either at this school committee meeting, if folks have questions about it. It was late that I gave it to you. It does explain everything that they do. Laurie Galvin and I met while we were at the Cape for over an hour with Dorothy Presser, who is pretty much a bigwig at the Mass Association of School Committees, and she strongly recommended it. In terms of paying for something like this, because there's a cost for everything you do, the ESSER 3 grant has a line item in it that we had put out there when we wrote the grant that deals with compliance issues and audit issues to make sure that we are bringing ourselves up to par. Again, one-time use of money that gives you long-term benefit, which is what the ESSER 3 grant is designed for. So there is the appropriate funds within that grant to do something such as this. I think it would be a huge benefit to the committee. I could take some questions on that, and then I have a few other items if anyone had a question.
Can you see any policy manuals from other towns that are
Yep, if you go on the Mass Association of School Committee website, you'll be able to see it right on there. It will show you. They went through a bunch of them, and a few superintendents spoke. I believe one was Newton and Wellesley. I believe those are the two superintendents that spoke about the effectiveness of this. And with the way policies and things are changing from the state level and around the world,
Right.
MASC has the most up-to-date policies, and they have the legal team that pushes out to schools, this is a recommended change in a policy. And we do oftentimes see those, but is there always the time to go back and adjust your policy? My concern is, are there policies that we're missing as a whole that maybe came about before my time or even during my time that we haven't jumped on to put into place here in the Winthrop Public Schools? And we have some policies that are so far outdated that don't need to be in there.
So if we join, we can see these other towns.
You can see
Policies.
them now, I
Okay.
believe, if you just go on the
Thank you.
website, but I can certainly check
just-
with
that's fine.
Dorothy, and she could probably give me a couple of more recommendations. Mentor and mentee induction.
Question, wait.
Oh,
another
sorry,
question.
So there's two documents here.
yes.
Could they go together, are they separate?
So they come together. The first one is the proposal for the policy manual development, and it talks about in detail what
Yeah,
the
I saw that.
project goals
So
are.
this is like the maintenance program?
And the second is the agreement
The contract.
that we would, it's like a contract that we would have to have with the Mass Association of School Committees and us, to say that, yes, we're going to engage in this, and we're going to partake in it over the course, and it can take a year. They don't put a timeline on you. You could do it through the course of a school year. If there's not a lot to be done, you could get it done in a couple of months. My guess with us is it's going to take us probably the full school year once they sit down and look at our book. So they'll take our policy book and take it away at first, and they'll all go through it and then come back and start meeting with the policy subcommittee and anyone else we want to put on that group.
So there's costs on both these? There's
So,
costs
no,
on this one, there's costs on this one?
the agreement is the total cost. So, why are you seeing something
I don't
different?
I don't see that anywhere.
Yeah. If you go to the second to last page,
No. Yeah. Which one are you talking? You talking about this one or this one?
The agreement one, the three-page agreement.
So this 3-page doesn't talk about the same money that's on this one.
It should. The 3,500, the 3,500.
I think this is just the basic setup fee that you see first. and this-
I can get some clarity on that from
Yeah.
Dorothy and bring that back
Yep.
to the next meeting
Good.
for you, as well as the list of other schools
Okay.
that are using it. So I believe in total, it was about 18,000 in total.
So that, yes, and then you gotta have the two of them together. Okay, got it.
But I'll double check that and get that out to the
Yep.
committee.
And is there then an ongoing fee to have that posted?
So there is, and I believe it gets posted for it's either 2 or 3 years at first, and then there is a fee after that that you pay yearly that doesn't, has nothing to do with the development, it's just to keep it posted on that website. But I'll get more clarity on that as well. So I wanted to introduce it to you, so you had time to kind of look at those things and marinate whether or not you think it's a useful tool for the school district, and to hear my opinion as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we have any idea how much time it would require from the subcommittee in order to put this into practice?
Yeah, they said it's not, they do the majority of the work,
Okay.
but they need the subcommittee's input. What Dorothy had told Lori Gallivan in a phone conference last week was a handful of meetings throughout the school year. And then they'll also come out and do a presentation to the school committee as well.
Okay.
But I'll come back with some more info on that. Let's see, what else? Alice training, so we have 2 half-days in September, the 14th and the 21st, I believe. Prior to that, as part of the mandatory trainings, condition of your job here in Winthrop, all staff members have to be Alice certified. And that is about a 90-minute online course that all of our employees, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, coaches, substitutes, anybody who's working here has to complete. And that's the true Alice certification training. The second piece of that, which is something we've gotten away from in the last 2 years, especially during COVID, is the on-site training with our staff members. We did it 3 years ago, and it's time for us to get back into that. So on those 2 half-days, the Winthrop Police Department, who has several Alice certified trainers, will come out to our schools. They'll do the elementary schools on one day from 12 to about 3, and they'll do the middle high school, I believe on the 21st, from 12 to 3. And they'll do active training within the school so that the teachers who are now certified through the online course will now see how that looks in real time. And Terry Delahanty and I have worked closely together to make sure that they have enough trainers to come out and do it and to work with the staff. We also have a parent letter going out this year to inform parents of what we're doing so that they know that on that half day, this is what we'll be doing with our staff. And with Alice training, just for a point of information, the goal is for our students to listen to the direction of the teacher in an emergency. We have not taken the next step, which some school districts in the Commonwealth have, which is providing those on-site trainings, those on-site activities during a school day with kids in the classroom. As an administrative team, we'd like to go through the teacher training and then bring folks back to the table and get some parental input as to that next step, if we want to take that next step this year, if we want to plan for that next step last year. If you recall, initially, when we brought Alice on board, I think it was my first year here, parents were very concerned about practicing the drills within the classroom. And I think part of it was not understanding what Alice was, so we would need to do some work on that with our families so that they are comfortable when we do get to that next point. But I thought it was important that you know that we will be having those trainings on those 2 half-days. And an enhancement of the Alice program this year is that every 90 days, after a teacher completes their certification, every 90 days, teachers will get an email with a refresher. And they go online and it says, you have an email, please complete this, and it's a little questionnaire, and then it's a little quiz, just to sort of keep people mindful of what they're supposed to be doing during, any event in the school. And, the one-time trainings are great, but sometimes we forget. We have our postings throughout the school about what Alice is and what people are supposed to do and what the protocol is. Part of the next discussion about the fire and police review in the school district, that's one of the things they look for in our classrooms. Do we have our Alice protocol clearly marked on the door frames, near the door, in the classroom, in the hallways? Are we up to par with our with our staffing certification? So they'll ask that as well. So there's all these checkpoints, in terms of safety of our students, which is very important, certainly within this world that we live in now. Fire and police inspections were completed this week. So the fire department, police department, and I believe the DPW is involved to some degree, go through the building, and they have a very detailed checklist. It's about, I don't know, Patty, 4 or 5 pages long, where they look at everything. They look at how you have things taped up on the wall, to your fire alarms, to your the dates on your review of your fire extinguishers, your elevators, the door locks, lighting, our cameras. They go through it all. It's nerve-wracking because the principals and the custodial staff get sort of amped up because they don't leave anything unnoticed. They come back to us with a report. I talked to Chief Delahanty today, although he's on vacation. By tomorrow, regardless of being on vacation or not, he will have those reports back to us. Those then go back to the building principal and the administrative team in that building, and they begin the process of saying, okay, the camera in, and there better be no cameras out, I can tell you that, because the cameras have been worked on to the point of exhaustion across the entire school district over the last 5 months. But they may say, you know, the door in corridor 4, the lock is broken, needs to be repaired. The custodial staff and the administration gets on top of those, and we have to report back to the fire chief and the police chief as to the progress of those. I can tell you that it is sort of an obsession with the fire chief and police chief, which is great. So they stay on top of us to make sure that those things get repaired. If there are any big ticket items that are going to be costly, I certainly will bring that back to the school committee. And there's things that must be repaired, and there are things that are recommended to be repaired. And according to Terry Delahanty in his first review, he said we looked very, very good, but there will be some recommendations from both police and fire that they will expect us to adhere to, and we will do so. A couple of short things. Residency, reestablished residency started on July 18th for students in grades 3, 6, and 9. As you know, we revised that policy back a few years ago for the purpose of making sure that every student that attends the Winthrop Public Schools resides in the community of Winthrop. I know it's annoying for parents. It's certainly not fun to sit there and take all that information and recheck it. However, it does help because we learned that parents have changed address, and if it's in the community, that's good for us that we find out now and not wait until school starts. We get telephone number changes, email changes, and we also find out that people have moved out of the community, and unfortunately have to tell them that unless they live in the community, the student can no longer go to school here. So we had 11 sessions of registration between July 18th and August 15th. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the team of people that did those reestablished residency checks to look at the number of people who did not show up and who didn't come in and follow through on that process. We reach out to those people individually and ask them to please complete that within the next few days. If it doesn't get completed, the principals have a list of the students who do need to complete that, so when they come to school on the first day of school, we then make an additional phone call to the family to say, we have your child in school today, but please understand, in order to be registered to go to school here, you have to complete this. Can you come up? So if anyone at home or in the audience has questions about how to do that, please contact your student's principal. They certainly can walk you through that process and make sure that you're all set for the first day of school. And the last thing, might be the bane of my existence after transportation, is crossing guards. So we continue to seek crossing guards. Right now, we have 3 crossing guards on board, one in front of Nick's, one at the police station, the intersection in front of the town hall and the police station, which nobody knows better than I, that is not the best spot to be crossing. And we also have one crossing guard down on the main street at Gorman Fort Banks. What street is that, Jim? Revere Street. We are seeking people. We are seeking paid people. We certainly will take volunteers at this point. If any parent or community member wants to volunteer their time, we will get you a beautiful orange vest and a sign to hold, and we will train you. We will take people who can do 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a half a day. We're semi-desperate for people to do that. We could use about 500 crossing guards, would be helpful at every corner and every street. But ideally, if we can get about 6 or 7 more people full-time. Full-time is early in the morning, rain, snow, sleet, coldness, or heat, and again in the afternoon at dismissal. The nice thing is it's only 180 days out of 365, and you get to see wicked cute kids every day. And our students really benefit from having crossing guards and developing relationships with people. The 3 people we have are awesome, but we need quite a few more. So please, 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 if you'd like to be a crossing guard, call me any time of the day or night, and I will take your call. And I know that was long-winded, but I think that's all I have for today.
Thank you for addressing that. I've had a number of concerns from parents about the crossing guard situation.
It's a big concern. I mean, when you think about the way people drive now, we're never going to stop people from being on their phones. We're not going to stop people from not paying attention. We're not going to stop people from stepping on the gas when the light turns yellow. That's just things that we can't control. But we would like to have people with signs being able to stand there to flash something in your face while they're, distract you from your phone so you can look up and see, gee, there's kids crossing the street. So as many people as we could get, we would be grateful for.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Ms. Swope.
I have two. The social emotional benchmark
Yes.
work that you're doing,
Yes.
is there a plan then, once you get those results, is there a plan for individual children that are in
There
trouble?
is. There
Okay.
is. And when we present you the platform we invested in comes with recommendations for the teachers to implement with the individual child, who may, on benchmark 1, have been happy, feel comfortable, feel safe, are able, feel like they have food security and such. And then when we benchmark them again 3 or 4 months later in the classroom, and it's literally a 15-minute evaluation, self-evaluation of a child, if it red flags us, then we're able to then institute something else, whether it's a phone call to the parent, whether it's working with one of our adjustment counselors. I think one of the really important pieces of this platform is it is a tracking system. So the information that you log into, so the classroom teacher can only see the students in their classroom, who they have. However, next year, that the new teacher can see how that child was the year prior. And that is critical because kids can change very dramatically from one year to the next. And that oftentimes is a missing piece over a long term of a child from kindergarten who presents one way to all of a sudden is dramatically different as a 7th grader. Where along the way were there changes? And oftentimes we don't have that information in hard form because the teachers change, people come, people go, and that also with our threat assessment program, our threat assessment team, which is taking another notch up, which I'll present to you at the next committee meeting. We have a committee meeting on it the first week of school. That particular team can also support a family in need or a student in need, and we'll have access to that information. So if we have a child who has an incident, who was this student like last year? Where did something go amiss? And the goal is to not to have to ask that question because you intervene in a time frame that's appropriate, and you're not waiting 2 or 3 years to really see that a student is sort of falling apart. That if you notice it on 3 benchmarks and it's getting worse, you have to up the ante about what you're going to provide for that child or how much intervention that child needs.
Thanks. My second question is, there are 24 teachers, ESPs, speech and hearing therapists, that type of person, but as I read the report, there's about 40 new people, or a little over 40.
Yeah, so some of our staff has
Right.
gone from being an ESP, so that's not reflected in that number. The number I gave you tonight of new people are new people to the district. However, I think we've had 3 or 4, Patty, ESPs that have now moved into the role of a teacher. They've become certified teachers. So I don't list them as a new person to the district, but they'll be new to the teaching aspect.
So I take it, though, there's lots of new cafeteria workers, new custodians, new...
No, so those were just teachers and ESPs that I gave you. Teachers
Okay,
under the
right.
umbrella
So
of teacher
that's what I was
is
thinking, that-
therapists,
so-
yeah.
Is there a specialized training for these other folks? I know there's Alice training for everyone, but is there...
Oh, sure, there's mandated training for
Everybody.
every employee that comes in. It's sort of tiered out depending upon what role you hold, so
Okay.
restraint training, for instance, is teachers, nurses, ESPs, therapists, cafeteria workers, not so much. Alice training, if you get a paycheck from the Winthrop Public Schools, you are Alice certified. You
It
can't-
just seemed
you
like a
can't-
lot of people, and I don't know if it's about the same every year, but 40 plus.
This is a lot this year.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I continue to do my exit data, so once we wrap everything up, I'll be able to give you some information if you'd like about what was the reason that most folks were leaving. And I'm interested in that because I'm, reading a lot about why teachers are leaving the profession across the, nation.
Right.
And I want to see whether or not that's true here. If they're going for a different type of a job, or are they burnt out, or are they moving, or just not teaching anymore? So our exit survey allows for that. It's not mandatory that you fill it out, but most people do. Majority of our staff that have left do fill it out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Related to the social emotional assessment, is that something that's going to be conducted with students in grades K through 12?
K through 12, and it's just a little bit different, by age group.
Sure.
So the questions that you're asking, obviously, a middle school student are different than you would be asking some of our younger students. And I think I'd have to double check if it's kindergarten, because we may not do it, it may not be kindergarten, but we have other assessments that we would be doing. But I bring that information back, because I really want to share, I want to share the platform with you so that you understand.
Yeah.
Because it is a big boost for us. It's another layer of information that we're collecting that will help support our students across the board.
It's so important right now for mental
Yeah,
health.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? Mr. Lettieri?
Thanks, Lisa. I know you just talked a little bit about just a nationwide shortage of teachers right now, and who's going into the profession and who's leaving the profession. And, you mentioned the new teachers that we have coming in. Is that a net zero, pretty much? Is it a net
No,
positive?
there's been some savings, not a tremendous amount. Any monies that have been saved, so for example, in case you don't know what he's talking about, if a teacher who is master's plus 60 with a $75,000 salary left, and we bring in a teacher who is 50,000, bachelor's first step, what we do with that additional money, because the budget is already approved, is we put it into what's called contingency line, and that's money that's not earmarked. But if you take the case of, say, a high school classroom with a chemistry teacher who may be a second-year teacher that left, and we can't find anybody except somebody who is master's plus 60 with 10 years of experience, some of that deltas out. Not a huge, not as much of a savings as I would like to see. I do see that we are hiring quite a few younger teachers, newer teachers to the profession at the elementary level, and where it hasn't been easy. There is not a wealth or wall of people jumping to get in to the teaching field, and that's not just Winthrop. Winthrop is, as we all know, an oddity, because you don't come to Winthrop to cut through to go anywhere else unless you're going swimming. Where are you going? You're not driving through Winthrop to go to another community. You're driving into Winthrop to be in Winthrop. It's not an easy commute from the North Shore or the South Shore, and that's what we hear from people. And as you know, at 2:30, it's not a pleasant place to be, especially if you have to get into Boston by 3 o'clock. Good luck.
And just to follow up on that too, I know how hard you've worked over the past several years to maintain, relatively small class sizes, especially in the elementary schools. Do we feel comfortable where we are now?
I do. I feel comfortable because we have not eliminated any positions, any classroom teaching positions, and in fact, last year we added a first and second grade and a fifth grade classroom. So our numbers are in the low 20s. Kindergarten, I believe, is 20 and under. That's where we want it to stay. For this school year, it can stay there. And then depending upon, contract negotiations and budgets from the community in the future, that's always the risk. When you start to talk about needing more money to pay teachers and having more teachers, if you're under a level service budget, eventually that catches up with you. We're using a lot of grant money, and I'll have that outlined for you because I think that's super important. Of all the grants we have, the majority of them are 80+% salaries, which is pretty much supplanting, but we look at it as supplementing, and if those grants are one-time money or those grants don't get funded, this year our Title I grant went down by about $8,000, but our salaries went up because, this is the third year of a 3-year contract, so salaries went up. And if salaries go up, this school year, depending upon negotiations, and there's not enough money to carry that in those grants, we have to go to the contingency line to cover those. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we have appointments, new hires.
Yeah, so I put Patty put the new hire list in your packet for you to see, and that's where you see the wealth of folks that have come on board with us this year. And you'll see some people, again, outlined that if they were an ESP and became a certified teacher, we try to promote from within. It's super important to us because we know the staff. You'll see some of that in there. We've had some resignations. We had Julie Hurtado, who was an ESP and part-time secretary at the Cummings, has left us. Lauren Lopes, who is a speech-language pathologist at the Cummings, has left us. Beth Bailey, who is our payroll coordinator, has also resigned. And Cindy St. George, who is an ABA aide, has taken on a job in another community in a different role. So we're filling all of those positions, and for the folks that are watching, the payroll coordinator is a super important job for us to fill. We've posted it. We've received some applications on School Spring. We're in conversations with temporary agencies right now. Payroll is something that we can't not do. And at this particular time of year, we actually had the town help support us in getting our payroll. This is the biggest payroll change per year is when school starts, because payroll all the deductions have to be turned on, all the new salaries have to be put in, and it's a really large job. And so the town has helped us out with one of the town hall folks who was willing to put in some extra time and help us while we're trying to fill that position. But if there's anyone out there that knows payroll systems, Harper's, has any understanding of purchase orders and what else does, accounts payable, MTRS, it's a job that we really want somebody with some experience to come in and jump right in and be able to do so. So again, we may have to go to a temp agency to start. We're working with Harper's and a couple of different temp agencies to try to get someone in. But applications are still open. And that was it for appointments and resignations. We have no retirements at this time. We have posted the 2 ESP positions at the Cummings. Those were, I believe, left over from the last meeting. The part-time office aide that was resigned by Julie Hurtado, as well as an ESP at the middle school from a resignation last week. And at the present time, we do not have any leave of absence requests.
Okay, thank you. We have no new business. Under unfinished business, we still have the ratification of the cafeteria contract, but that has not been returned to us, is my understanding. And then
Correct. Yeah, so they have not yet voted, so their proposal is on the table. We believed we had an agreement. This is for the contract going back for the last 2 years, I believe. So we're going to then begin negotiations. That's the one unit that we haven't had any meetings with. They're looking to ratify that contract for the past 2 years. They just have not voted on it yet. I am unclear, it might be 3 years. I am unclear as to why. They haven't done that yet, but we have reached out to their representative to find out, so that should remain on there.
Okay, and we also have the superintendent's request for the interim assistant superintendent appointment.
So at the request of the committee, the draft contract was asked for. Paul Hodnett, who's our school committee attorney, has been gracious enough to work on this. It says draft all over it. I put that in your packet for you all to read. As I anticipated, you may be taking a vote tonight.
Can I have a motion to approve that contract?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Berry, second by Ms. Swope. Discussion. Mr. Martucci.
Just want to make sure about the increase, any pay increase involved in this right now.
So as of right now, this is the same salary that Laurie Gallivan would have had this year with no change from her last contract, which her contract ended on June 30th of this past school year.
Great.
Mr.
That will
Lettieri.
stay for how long?
So this is a one-year interim contract.
And I just think, haven't had a chance to work with Laurie all that much, but everything I've heard, everything I've seen, she's been an amazing contribution to the Winthrop Public Schools. And I know how much you sorely need the help.
Oh, this girl would not be standing if it was not for Laurie Galvin, I can tell you that.
And I also feel incredibly, I don't know if agitated is the right word, but we can't discuss contracts or anything, but we really want to, I really want to make sure we can execute some sort of agreement with all our unions. When you look at our budget and you see that 85% of the budget is salaries, basically, and in a relatively precarious position, and you have a lot of so-called COVID money that's going to be one-time money and running out relatively soon, and we have to look towards the future and see how anything we do affects us. And I understand this is a one-year appointment with interim appointment with no salary increase, but I'm sure next year there would probably be some sort of discussion about an increase. And I just think, the number one thing that I think we all agree on is that the most important thing we do is to educate our children. And to do that, you need teachers and you need staff and you need help, and it goes on down the line. But, the public sector just takes so much time. It's very discouraging to a lot of us. And I just wish that we can come to a resolution sooner rather than later on all this stuff. But it's very important to realize what kind of financial position we're in, and to understand that we have a lot of one-time money that's going away in a couple of years, and we have to be cognizant of that in whatever we do. But I think Laurie's a great asset. I will support this in terms of a one-year interim with no salary increase. But I just think we have to keep our eye on the ball and get a lot of things done. But thank you.
Yeah, and I would agree, Jim. I mean, in terms of Laurie's being so driven to improve student outcomes, I mean, that is her drive, is, to support teachers, which she does just as part of her nature. She can't not support anyone who asks her a question. She will find the answer, or she'll find somebody who can answer you. But her eye is always on improved student performance, whether that's researching a curriculum, reaching out to the Department of Education, contacting another school, looking at curriculum herself before she overburdens teachers with another review of something else, bringing people to the table. ARCS Ed, this platform for our teachers to be able to house information in one spot to save time for teachers, so that we're not perseverating on things that we could do quickly by just not pulling it together. Those are the things that Laurie is super strong on. Most important aspect of Laurie, in my opinion, I've worked with Laurie now, I don't even want to say, I think 10 years now. She has common sense, which this has sort of been lost in the world, in my opinion, as a superintendent and a mother. Common sense has sort of gone out the window. Everything Laurie approaches, she approaches it with common sense. And there's not a day that goes by that she doesn't make sure that she is supporting teachers and supporting families. The work she's done with our students that are struggling with food security and homelessness, and our homeschool parents and our ELL population. I mean, the growth in the work with our ELL families, between Laurie and myself, but really spearheaded by Laurie, from a common sense standpoint, has been a game changer here. I think people are feeling more comfortable here in terms of new families, and that's because of the communication and just that, like I said, common sense approach. If we had an endless bucket of money, Laurie's invaluable. But we know the position we're in. We're settling 7 contracts. Laurie deserves this recognition for the work that she does. She's doing this work. So this title is about 3 years old, in my opinion. And sometimes a title is not money, but what it is it's respect, it's acknowledgement of what she's doing. And it is extraordinarily helpful from a legal perspective for me when it comes to some of the work that she's doing with the Department of Ed. And I'll stop talking.
Yes, Ms. Swope.
Jim, thank you, Jim. Jim, I probably worked with Lori more than anybody on this committee. And without Lori, I don't think we would have come out as well as we did on reaccreditation from the high school. There is no question. The principals say that, the teachers that I've talked with say that. In terms of curriculum, she has done a fantastic job, and she has moved Winthrop ahead in so many ways. So I not only support her this year, but I will be supporting her next year and staying.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms.
I'll just underscore that, I think I'm quite grateful that Lori is willing to stay on for a title increase or a title change, which, as you say, commands respect. But, generally speaking, in better times, a title change would involve some monetary compensation, and for all kinds of reasons we're all very well aware of. This time it doesn't, but I would underscore, I would underscore Suzanne Swope and say that I have every anticipation of supporting Lori for a permanent position, not just interim, that I would hope would come with some monetary compensation.
Thank you.
At the end of this year, what would be the process?
So the school committee has the right to suggest or recommend that position stay on as a permanent position.
Okay.
And then you would be, I believe, and I'm not always 100% right on these things, but I believe that the school committee negotiates the contract in terms of money and days and whatnot for an assistant superintendent, which is one of the contracts you negotiate. That and the business manager and me. So you would probably take that up sometime around, I would suggest you do it fairly early so Laurie knows she's stable, and be able to take that up and develop a contract moving forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please? Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. Public relations. Does anybody have anything to add?
I would just say, reiterate how school's starting before our next school committee meeting, and I think it's incredibly important for the citizens of the town to realize that there'll be a lot of little kids running around, and we do not have a lot of crossing guards, as the superintendent has pointed out multiple times, and we could use all the help we can get, but there's going to be roughly 2,000 kids out in the streets that haven't been there for the last couple of months in certain times. So just be cognizant of everything that's going on. There's still a lot of construction going on around the town too. So just safety first.
Thank you. The senior class 2023 will be having a bake sale this Saturday at French Square from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So please go down and support our seniors. Anything else? Thank you. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Martucci. Second by Ms. Berry. May I have a roll call, please? Yes. Ms. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Lettieri?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Ms. Barry?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. Meeting is adjourned.